one franchise I've always kind of wanted to get into is Pirates of the Caribbean. Ever since I was a kid, this franchise intrigued me, and I always found it interesting, but I never became a fan of it, you know? I mean, I watched the first movie, but I didn't go any more than that. It seemed like my thing as a kid, but here, I guess I just never really went back to it. Especially as I hit 16 and I stopped watching movies for a while. So I decided, when I did my next franchise deep dive, I decided this will be, when I first envisioned this, I envisioned this as the second episode. Home Alone was then said to be the second, and this is the third, mostly because, well, I wanted to get a Christmas FDD out, or just a Christmas video in general, considering I skipped Halloween, so I had to do something for Christmas, a big video for Christmas, not just the Saving Santa video. But in general, I think that this is I think that this will be an interesting exercise, because I don't fully know the general consensus on these movies, at least not as well known as Ice Age or Home Alone. From what I can see, there are different groups of people. Some say only the first one was good, some say only the first three were good, and 4 and 5 were terrible, or some people say and there might be a small group that say they're all good. Like, there's a small group of people that say, all the Ice Age movies are good. Maybe Buck Wild. If there's a defender of Buck Wild, please write down in the comments. But still, I would love to see someone who thinks all Home Alone movies are good, because that would be an interesting person. But anyway, these movies, all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, I'm just gonna get into them because I don't want to just wait around. Now, obviously, we're going to cut in with regular stuff within the deep dive, so let's get that over with. But here it is. Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. Okay, so I love this movie. It's fantastic, legitimately a 10 out of 10. And I was not expecting to say that. I thought I would have the same opinion on this movie as the first Ice Age or the first Home Alone. It was a good movie, but not amazing. But no, this movie is 100 times better than anything either of these franchises put out. Yeah, including Dawn of the Dinosaurs. I highly doubt it can be topped. Like, maybe one from the next franchise I review can be topped because it's seen as one of the masterpieces. But in terms of this franchise, I don't think it can be topped. This movie has a very good and interesting, robust plot, with a historical setting, but clearly still having a fantasy feel. I like the premise of an entire pirate crew getting cursed to become undead people who can barely do anything but work. And God, that imagery was terrifying. I was genuinely creeped out of my mind by that. What the absolute hell movie? Captain Barbossa in general is a threatening and interesting villain that has a good dynamic with the main characters. You get his feel really, really well. Speaking of the main characters, Will is interesting, I guess. Yeah, he's actually the protagonist of the movie, not you-know-who. But while I like him, I don't think he's a spectacular character. He has a decent arc, I guess, about his own family, but coming out of his comfort zone. I like his dynamic with Jack, but yeah, the rest of the cast outshines him. Let's talk about Keira Knightley as Elizabeth. She is fantastic. I cannot believe it when I saw she was 17 when this was made, because she is so good in this. How is she 5 years younger than I am now? He played a vulnerable side, which was clearly a badass woman, while also playing a badass woman who was being awesome. And I do think her romance with Will was a good one. Better than a lot of the romances I talked about in my rom-com ranking. Their determination to save each other kind of reminds me of Snow and Charming from our act. And they really do a good job of in us buying that the history is already there. Pre-relationship chemistry. I like her scenes of the ship, particularly those scenes with Barbossa. It's interesting to see a character developed. Of course, we have to talk about him. Captain Jack Sparrow. A fantastic character played by, no matter what you think of him as a person, a fantastic actor. He is hilarious in the movie, as his loyalties are incredibly unclear. You get his character in his first scene, which is very enjoyable and funny. His relationship with other characters is great too. His dynamic with Will is fantastic. And boy, that scene of Island with Elizabeth is so damn funny, oh my god. The other characters are fun too. They do well at making Norrington unlikable without making him a straight up villain. I like him and how he clearly has the best intentions. Obviously Elizabeth just isn't into him and he goes a bit too far with prosecuting. I like his dynamic with Will too. I like how he just gives Jack a 1 day head start. But yeah, I do like him. I love Anna Maria as well. And the two men who work for Norrington and talk to Jack in his first scene are really fun too. The ending is great with Will saving Jack from execution. Makes sense for his character. And Elizabeth taking a stand saying she'll marry him. They both work quite a bit. Barbossa's death is good too, as is the curse breaking, and kind of a twist that Jack was under the curse too. That was funny. And yeah, all in all, this is a near perfect movie from beginning to end. I honestly don't have many complaints about it. I of course hope they can follow it up well, but let's find out. So, Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest is a giant step down from the first movie. With that said, it's still pretty good. Yeah, in my opinion, it's hard to follow up such a big movie like the first one, it seems. Davy Jones is a good villain, but he's no Barbossa in my opinion. He's threatening enough and definitely has a good dynamic with Jack and to an extent Will too. But it's not like we see him interact with Elizabeth to any extent, and so we don't get the full feel, and I don't think he's bad. How he treats his crew is still awful in a very interesting way, and it's not like I hate him. I think the first half was decent enough, but it did have quite a few issues. Most notably the cannibal scene on the island. Is it racist? Well, I don't know, maybe? I don't like to speculate on these things, but in general, it's a dumb scene that doesn't even have a purpose in the narrative. Will could reunite with Jack on the ship and nothing about the story would change. It's just a waste of time. And it's not funny. This random culture thinks Jack is a god and they eat their gods. What? But I guess that's a small thing in the grand scheme of things. Some bigger things in this movie are like story decisions, like how much Will and Elizabeth trust Jack at the beginning of the movie. Yeah, he helped you out in saving your lives in the first movie, but he clearly mostly did that to save himself. And well, yeah, Elizabeth clearly sees good in him, and Will might too. It's just weird of him just corrupted. I don't know. It's just weird of how she doesn't even doubt him much. But then again, he should suspicious. She kind of redeems herself of it. Elizabeth kind of redeems herself of this though, as she basically murders Jack at the very end of the movie. Like, yay! It was honestly a really good twist that makes sense for their character. But there are other bad things too, like how the movie portrays this guy as the villain at first, but only really uses him as a force to get the movie started. And after Elizabeth gets out of prison, he's barely in the movie. Like, I legitimately forgot he existed before he showed up again randomly in like 3 more scenes. Like, I get why he's there, but why do they build him up so much if they'll do anything with him? But there are good things too, because although it might have went on a little too long, at least the beginning of the 3-way sword fight is really good. Especially with Elizabeth constantly shouting at them. Norrington in this movie as a whole is great. His downfall makes complete sense, as does why he would want revenge on Jack. Although he did choose to technically aid his escape, so it's still partly his own fault. Will, I think, might be improved. The only thing improved since the first movie. Not by too much, but I definitely think he's a much more interesting and funny protagonist here. Will and Elizabeth are also still a great couple, although it's disappointing they have less screen time together here. But it's still pretty good when it's there, but I get it. Plus, it is pretty funny when they reunite just before the sword fight. Jack himself is exactly the same quality in this movie as he was in the last. Hilarious, morally grey, wonderfully performed, and fantastic dynamic with everyone he interacts with. Gibbs I love too in both movies. I don't know why I didn't mention him when talking about the first. He's great. I like to say, we have had both villains on both movies captured on dead ships. Although this movie's imagery is nowhere near as disturbing as the last. I'm sorry, the visuals are just a downgrade. Plot primarily is too. I don't really care about this chest. For some reason, I didn't guess the heart was Davy Jones's heart, but I should have. Obvious twist. So yeah, this movie is a pretty big downgrade from the first movie, but considering how good that movie was, it's very hard to top the first movie, so I can forgive it. I'm also not going to fault it for being half a movie, like, because I didn't know that this movie ended on a cliffhanger and was surprised when it did. When Elizabeth let Jack die with 10 minutes left, I just wondered, okay, so how is he going to get out of there so quickly? But I guess that makes me, but I guess that just makes me more excited for the next installment. I mean, I knew nothing about these movies going in, so I didn't know that there was going to be a cliffhanger here, and this movie is basically a part 1 leading into part 2, which I'm gonna review now. Not so fast, Patrick. You really thought I was gonna wait even longer to do my bit? Hi, and welcome to the first extended pause out of this video. Now, because every one of these videos we do segments in between the main segments to just, well, figure out what exactly goes on. Basically, we talk about stuff which don't fit into the main parts. This time, but in my last two videos, the first pause was primarily focused on the merchandise. And yes, don't get me wrong, I am going to get into that. But what I won't get into, but what I will get into first, is something some people may have expected to show up at the beginning of the video. The fact that Pirates of the Caribbean is the first franchise in this series which is technically not an original work. Disney based this series off one of their most famous, most iconic theme park rides that existed. Now, I don't want to get too bogged down into the details of the history of the famous Pirates of the Caribbean ride, mostly because I'm not a theme park person. I'm not Defunctland, okay? I can't talk on this that much. So I'm going to be slightly more brief. And let's do it brief, but this obviously still deserves its full attention. So let's get into this before I talk about the merchandise. So the Pirates of the Caribbean ride first opened in 1967. Yeah, a very long time ago. Basically, and it was the final ride Walt Disney ever worked on. And it was very different originally than how it is now. So basically, it focuses on fireflies. A bunch of pirates are drunk. It goes through a bunch of skeletons. A skull basically tells you what to expect. And after this, and then they keep repeating the phrase, "Dead men tell no tales." The pirate captain leads for assault on colonials, and it seems like a fierce battle is going on. They keep threatening to drown people, and it keeps going on, and then keeps going on, but then they go on to a chase scene where they're all chasing after women. Yeah, this scene was apparently changed in later editions, to just be food, for food, probably because of the sexism, and yeah, makes sense now, especially as one of the main, characters in the movie franchise is a female pirate, so I don't know. So yeah, it's gone through many refurbishments over the years. Along with that, some changes to the queue, but also some changes to the eventual 2002 like a revival, where after obviously the success of the first and second movies, they obviously had to update the ride to make it more accurate to the movie, just so you can do that. So they basically added a bunch of stuff with Barbossa, and a lot of the ride became about looking for Jack. And then Jack stood at the end, all of this. If some of the information doesn't work, it's just because I got all of this off like Wikipedia and YouTube videos. I haven't actually ridden the ride myself. You think I wanted to go overseas for this video? I am not lucky enough to have been to Disneyland. I might one day, and I hope I do get to ride this ride one day, but well, I'll link some things better explain this before. But anyway, the ride made it into multiple of the places. The Magic King. In a lot of them, it was shorter. Magic Kingdom Disneyland Paris. But actually, Shanghai Disneyland did something very different. It technically has a ride, but it's technically just a different ride. It's basically called Pirates of the Caribbean: Battle for the Sunken Treasure. It's basically the Enter the Caves of Misfortune and with a flying Dutchman's remains. It's mostly based on the second movie, and it seems way more directly based off the first movie. So yeah, I'm interested to see what's going on in here. But what else? So yeah, that's basically everything. So I can't review this ride, maybe. I'll just tell you about the light history of this ride. Again, I don't know too much about this ride, so let me just tell you. So, and I don't know too much about rides in general. I'm not Defunctland. I'm not a theme park guy. So, I haven't reviewed this ride, but maybe I will one day. Maybe I will review this theme park ride one day. But right now, I'm just going to stick with telling you the history, because I think I still gave it some of the credit it deserves for getting the rest of the franchise going, because it is how it started, how it all started. So, let's get back to what I'm actually good at. So, yeah, time for the merchandise segment, the one that really matters. Okay, that was a joke. Obviously, the ride matters more than the merch. Not that the merch doesn't matter at all, just without the ride, I still wouldn't be making this video, would I? I don't know. Okay, so, yeah, I've been doing this with the merch for a while. I've got a few stuff from my previous ones up there on the shelf. Now, so if you watch the previous two videos and some other videos, or just know me from social media, you know that I collect teddies, or lots of plushies, and I'm trying to collect a teddy at least tied into every franchise I'm doing here. Basically, even if they don't sell a plushie, I'm always going to get the first item on eBay as I type in the franchise and then the word teddy. Obviously, I'm going to get the first one that is actually a teddy or a plushie or anything. I'd just like to point that out. So, I actually got this a month ago. I just haven't unwrapped it because, well, I haven't felt the need to. There's been no reason to. Now, I'm sure I got another one, but I can only find this one now. But this is Mickey dressed as a captain. Looks cool. Yeah, dressed as a pirate. Pirates of the Caribbean themed. There are a lot of these, like Disney, Pirates of the Caribbean merchandise. It's clearly a costume teddy. And I have a lot of these that exist. Hell, kind of like the teddy, this guy who I reviewed last time with Home Alone. He was kind of a costume teddy. So this isn't a surprise, like the biggest one is a costume teddy. Let's just take the price off. But what is really what is really impressive is just this. Now he is honestly pretty good. I like his belt. I like his shirt. I like the shoes. I like this teddy. It's basically not got much wrong with it. It does say Walt Disney World 50 years. So I don't know exactly when it opened, so I'm pretty sure this is one for music. But anyway, I think it looks pretty new, pretty casual, and has long listings. Yeah, all in all, pretty good teddy. I'm just going to put it here with others. That was not supposed to happen. There we go. Let's hope it stays there this time. Okay, now, the second thing I wanted to show you is this. Pirates of the Caribbean Monopoly, the fourth movie. This is based on specifically the fourth movie, which at the time of this recording, I haven't actually seen. And I also played this game a month ago, before I had seen any of the movies. You see, this video was kind of meant to go out earlier. I just wanted to work on the rom-com ranking more, so that got in the way. And I bought all the merchandise before I started most of the work on this video. So I've had this stuff for about a month. But anyway, this Monopoly is not the only game. Wait, it doesn't work out. This Monopoly is not the only board game released for the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. There's been a Pirates of the Caribbean Game of Life and a Pirates of the Caribbean Battleship. But honestly, all of them, it would be way too expensive to get all of them, plus I've never played Battleship, and I don't want a themed version to be the first version I play, even though it will make the most sense to review that one. Monopoly is the game I'm most familiar with. So I think if I was gonna buy one of them, it would be this one. So this is just a version of Monopoly with like themed sales, themed money, all that kind of stuff, with like lots of just replaced with Pirates of the Caribbean items. What is smart in this one is that they list their chances as treasures, and they list their cards as treasures and curses, which I think is really good, because usually theme ones, they usually keep the names of Chance and Community Chest, especially with here Pirates of the Caribbean. Community Chest will probably make the most amount of sense, you know. It also has lots of themed playing pieces, although the ship would have made perfect sense in this version too. I don't know why they didn't keep the ship in. You could have just replaced everything else but kept the ship, you know. But anyway, I think this is a decent Monopoly version. It's better in a lot of ways, but it's still as annoying and as unfinishable as any version of Monopoly is or ever can be. Okay? Okay. Now, the last thing I wanted to show you... Oh, wait, I forgot to say something about Monopoly. If you're wondering why I didn't unbox this, well... Oh. This is the box it came in. This. It is so big. And, like, I had to open through... So there was, like... I had to open, like, 3 times until I finally got it. So I'm really glad I didn't unbox this. Obviously, I wanted to play it before I started here. But, like, I'm really glad I didn't unbox this. Meaning, because of that. If I play it again and have my thoughts fresh, I might say some more words about it in the second pause. But I might just leave it here still. Because just Monopoly, it's... yeah. The last thing I wanted to show you, and the last thing I bought, was something I did unbox, because honestly I kind of forgot I got it. But anyway, like the Home Alone stuff, it is a t-shirt. A Jack Sparrow t-shirt. Obviously, it's still in the bag. Well, it's not in the parcel, it's still in the bag. So, technically, I still have to unbox it or unbag it, I guess. How do I... Oh, yeah. There we go. There we go. I bought, like, it's a wanted poster as well, just like the Home Alone one. Look! Cool! Now, but let's just, show you two, but let's try this on. Let's try this thing on, like I did the Home Alone shirt. So yeah, this says one, so yeah, I have it on now. So, this says wanted, a picture of a black and white Jack Sparrow, bounty of £200 paid to any person who surrenders this notorious pirate, dead or alive. Is it worth it? Oh wait, you want the real Jack Sparrow. He isn't the real Jack Sparrow. Damn it! I thought I could collect some money! Okay, but anyway, this, so yeah, let's look at the merchandise here. So Patrick and me have now both seen the third movie, and I guess waiting to talk about it right now. So here's a segment of him talking about it. But I hope you enjoy me talking about the merchandise and the theme park games, as terrible as I was explaining it. But I'll be back for the second pause to tell you about, well, even more. Even more. Just wait for that. You'll see what I've got. Over to you, Patrick. Thank you, Matrick, for talking about that. I'm glad I didn't. Anyway, so yeah, I watched the third movie. What's it like? What is my opinion on it? Let's just see. Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End is a movie that is, like the second one, very flawed. But mostly I like it because I like the characters. Again, this is similar to the second movie. If you're more of a plot guy, which I honestly can be sometimes, but if you're like only a plot guy, I don't know, but you might not like this movie. The plot kinda sucks. Well, yes, technically this movie is a part 2 to the first one, continuing from where it went on with the characters, more or less continuing the same arcs they were on in the original, in the first part, except Jack, I guess, who really has a new goal and a new arc, but still, overall though, it feels like a very different movie, which, don't get me wrong, is a good thing, in a way. A part 2 movie should stand on its own still, even if it is a part 2. Well, this doesn't even really feel like a part 2. Hell, it doesn't even really have the same main villain. Remember when I complained about the secondary villain Beckett only really appearing in the first 30 minutes? Well, here he's absolutely the main villain. So what about Davy Jones, you ask? Well, he's basically reduced to a henchman doing Beckett's bidding due to his heart getting captured. His threatening nature and great writing is gone mostly because of this. But this isn't the only reason why the plot mostly sucks. So apparently all along the series was connected to a goddess of the sea which has never been mentioned before. The weird woman who I like well enough, but here I don't. So she brings Barbossa back, who just spends the entire movie wanting to free her. And apparently she has history with Davy Jones. They used to be lovers before the latter went insane. Yeah, I don't care about any of this shit. It's just so boring, it's not like we get any investment. I was invested in Davy Jones because he was an irredeemable asshole with no care for anything. Now he's just a guy crying over a girl who never met you before. The Calypso stuff takes up so much screen time, but doesn't really lead to much. The whirlpool at the end could have happened anyway. By just having it just say, the sea did it. Like, it's just a natural event. Didn't have to be this whole Calypso goddess stuff. And that's like the only thing it really does in the movie. I don't know. What was it? So why do I still like this movie? Well, as I said, the characters are still enjoyable. I really like Elizabeth's arc in this movie, and Jack is still as enjoyable as ever. Will is also not bad in this movie. He seems to kind of get better in every installment. Also, Although calling him the protagonist in this movie is kind of pushing it, like first and second, there's honestly kind of an ensemble of three main characters between Jack, Elizabeth, and Will. A lot of the time in the movie, they're just doing their own individual thing. And I kind of like that. Also, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I really like the pirate politics seeds. From the dumb arguing, to the vote for the Pirate King, to the pointless fighting. They're great seeds. Now, don't get me wrong. The fact that these pirate politics and pirate lords is kind of stupid, as is the fact that none of this has ever been mentioned before in the other two movies. But I don't care. I still love that part. What are you gonna do, sue me? Now, let's talk about Will and Elizabeth. Well, while I enjoy the ending, and their wedding during the climactic fight scene is genuinely the funniest thing in the entire franchise so far, and I do think their relationship being on the rocks is done better than in most sequels. I usually hate the trope of two characters who get together at the end of the first movie, but because we can't write a happy couple, they're just fighting in the sequels, for no other reason than plot. Here, it's completely understandable. Pirate life is consuming both of them, making them keep secrets to each other, and overall not making for a healthy relationship, even if they do still clearly love each other. The problem is, though, I don't really feel like they sort things out. Like, don't really. They could have had a simple scene. I mean, instead of this whole Calypso stuff, they could have had Will and Elizabeth work through their issues to resolve things. They just spend so much of the movie apart. I think Jack and Elizabeth share more screen time in this movie than she does with Will. Never mind. I still like them as a couple, and I do find the last scene heartwarming. It's not that big an issue. Oh, I almost forgot to talk about Norrington's death. It's such a footnote which leaves zero impact. The death itself is fine, him essentially sacrificing himself for Elizabeth's safety. It just comes so early in the movie. I don't think it's even mentioned after, so what's the point? In my opinion, the death should have either been in the climax for essentially the same reason, or it actually has some impact on the story and characters. Like, maybe it's weakened, not like maybe Beckett is weakened because Norrington was like one of his best guys, and now he can't do similar, and now he's also big similar. It wasn't hard to actually give us a purpose. It didn't super piss me off, but for a character who got a lot of development in the first two movies, just to be forgotten about very quickly in the third, really didn't put me the right way. Now, maybe you want my opinion on the ending as a whole. Well, as I said, I think it's a great ending for Will and Elizabeth. I think they got a pretty conclusive ending, which would honestly be easy to ruin. But if this was the last Pirates of the Caribbean movie, then I don't know. I think I might still want Jack's story to continue. It doesn't really feel like his arc is completely over yet. And while I would be happy that we never really got a fourth one, because I would assume in this alternate universe I ruined the ending, something fully focused on Jack wouldn't mind as much. All I'm saying is, I'm glad they mostly kept Will and Elizabeth out of the fourth and fifth movies and never ruined this heartwarming and tragic ending. At least I hope so. Don't just mention something off screen or something. I don't know. So yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean 3. Good movie, but could have been a lot better. I'm I'm honestly not looking forward to a fourth one. I'm assuming it will tie into the Fountain of Youth, like Jack was going to look at it, so that would be the natural place to go. I assume he'll go there. But let's just see if it's actually as bad as some people say it is. On Stranger Tides is honestly not that bad of a movie. I'm not sure why some hate it so much, to be honest. It's actually quite a natural follow-up to where the third left off, with the main conflict being two groups of characters who are off to find the Fountain of Youth, with it basically being a MacGuffin because it really doesn't do anything in the end. I do think the movie is nowhere near the quality of the second and third movies though, and definitely not the first. But I'll start with the stuff I like first. The biggest praise to this movie is actually a bit of a surprise. I thought Will and Elizabeth, or even much without Will and Elizabeth, or even much of a crew, Jack wouldn't have a supporting cast to play off of, and therefore wouldn't be as funny. But no, he's honestly just as good as he was in the first three movies. He is a true anti-hero in this movie, and while he's the clear lead, I don't think that's much of an issue at all like some others do. His unlikability as a protagonist doesn't drag him down as a character, partly because of Johnny Depp's performance, but also because, well, he's just a good character. He has a good arc in this movie about whether he truly wants immortality or continued life as it is. With all this said, I'm not 100% okay with his romantic subplot. I mean, overall, I don't mind Angelica. She's somewhat fun and does have a decent dynamic with Jack. But I'm sorry, they just don't really have that much romantic chemistry. Though I like that they don't really go there and kind of leave it ambiguous as he leaves her stranded on that island. I was fully expecting them to kiss and go on a ship together at the end, but no, that thankfully didn't happen. Also, this franchise isn't done having good villains, it seems. Blackbeard is threatening, a great foil, and has a good dynamic with Jack, as does his relationship with Angelica. You actually do get the sense that he somewhat cares about her in a very screwed up way. His death is also really good and very well played. I wasn't expecting such a good villain in this movie. But then again, I wasn't expecting to get much out of this movie altogether. And yeah, now, that's kind of the good stuff over and done with. But a small compliment is, I'm kind of glad we didn't mention Will and Elizabeth in this movie at all. The ending is kind of left ambiguous, and I'm honestly surprised Jack never mentioned them in an offhand way. Honestly, makes me a little nervous for the fifth film. But never mind, time to talk about why this movie still isn't actually good. I actually now hate that they brought Barbossa back in the second movie. In the third movie, while still being somewhat enjoyable, he did spend half the movie whining about Calypso. In this one, he's just nothing. He's an extra guy they have to fight because, I don't know, they didn't want Jack to be the only character they brought back for the sequel. They didn't want him to kill Blackbeard for obvious reasons. Other than that, he doesn't do much in the movie. Him being a privateer and turning away from pirate life isn't that enjoyable because he still acts like a pirate. Him suddenly talking like a pirate again at the end just seemed like a great moment to him. But it's not even too far removed from how he acted in the rest of the movie. I firmly believe Barbossa only works as the primary villain of a movie, not a foil or an extra threat. Like Davy Jones, turning him into a nuanced character kinda makes him boring. Gibbs in this movie is okay. He's clearly upgraded to a bigger role, as they didn't want us to completely forget the original trilogy, but I'm not sure this suits him. His biggest relationship is being Jack's first mate in the first 3 movies. That's not present at all here, as Jack doesn't have a crew, and Gibbs is with Barbossa for the majority of the movie. Again, he's not ruined, but a lot of the charm feels like it's gone from this character, similar to Barbossa. The biggest issue in this movie is that a lot of it is just very boring. There's so many parts where not much really happens, the plot itself really isn't that inventive. Also, we spend so much of this movie on a romantic subplot between a random Christian guy who they should have killed before the movie even started. Like, seriously, why did they keep him alive? And also an incredibly boring mermaid. I don't remember either of their names, and honestly, I can't bother to look them up. The movie never makes me care about them in any way, or their nothing romance, so I feel absolutely nothing when they manage to get away. I think romantic subplots between 2 side characters in a movie are really hard to get right as a whole, as they're not the focus and don't get developed as much themselves. It's very hard to develop a romance on top of that, and this movie is a very good example of that. These two don't do anything in the movie except this romantic subplot, and that's really disappointing. Some people say that they might have wanted to capture the feel of Will and Elizabeth in the first 3 movies, but the difference between those two is they were the main characters! They were the 2 main characters of the movie. Of course, their romance was gonna be more developed. Stop. They were 2 good characters as well, so you can't keep saying it. So yeah, overall this movie kinda sucks, but it has quite a few good parts, and it doesn't deserve to be completely thrown out. I do firmly think the 5th movie might be worse, and if that's true, this series will be on a perfect downward spiral, which makes it differ from the previous 2 franchises here, at least in my opinion. Magic, just do your thing so I can maybe wait a bit to watch it. I am at your service, Patrick. Hi, welcome to the second extended pause of the video. Yeah, I decided to have 2 of these, because it's gonna be kind of more unequal, because, well, I only there's only 1 movie to talk about after this, but there's also the future of the franchise segment, and I think it's best to have 2 extended pauses rather than just talk about everything at once, because this franchise probably has the most supplementary material out of the 3 we've covered so far. So, what am I talking about? The 3. So, I'm going to talk about this franchise in 3 other mediums. Now, I don't know everything about this, but like, first of all, first, I'm going to talk about Pirates of the Caribbean comics. Yeah, the comics! There's honestly not much to go over here. I personally think that Pirates of the Caribbean could easily work with comics. At least somewhat. It's a series that lends itself to it. But it doesn't sound that great. And aside from the comic adaptations which did exist, the main comic series had only 5 issues, and they were all set in between Curse of the Black Pearl and Dead Man's Chest. 2 movies which only had a 1-year time skip, which I guess you can kinda try to fill in the gaps of. I haven't read any of these comics, and they seem to have several continuity errors. I'm just getting all this info from the wiki, okay? It's called Pirates of the Caribbean. The 5 issues are The Guardians of Windward Cove, Smoke on the Water, Banshee's Boon, which doesn't even have a page on the wiki, Mother of Water, and Beyond Port Royal. Again, these are all set in between. Movies 1 and 2, and they all don't seem that impressive. But who knows? I could be wrong. I haven't read them. I don't plan to. Let's just move on to 2 mediums in which the franchise was actually successful in. So, yes, I'm gonna talk about now 2 mediums in which the franchise actually had good success in. I mean, and these are, first one is books. Novels, in specific. Now, Ice Age and Home Alone both had novels, but I don't think I even mentioned them in the video. I might have, I don't know. But those were just novelizations. They weren't proper spin-off books, which expand the lore and tell more stories which you don't see normally. There is a big difference between those two. Novelizations retells the story you already know. It's an adaptation into another medium. It has a lot of issues, and a bunch of things have got one. Hell, the first season of Once Upon a Time, that even has a novelization, weirdly enough. But, yeah. While Pirates of the Caribbean obviously does have several novelizations, it also has many spin-off books. I do mean many. Most notably, they have a 13-book series called Pirates of the Caribbean Jack Sparrow, about a captain who about Jack Sparrow as a young pirate, and basically prequel set decades before the series began, with Jack as a young pirate, and go on what that's about. Yeah, that was 13 books long. There's also more which we're going to talk about later. But yeah, I wasn't going to buy all of these 13 books. I am not a book reviewer. The only books I read are the annual Skullduggery Pleasant books, which, by the way, this new one is just... Why the hell did you bring back Kaylin? Why did you kill off Fletcher in such a dumb way? This book pulls off a really stupid trope, which I hate, where they just continue, where they just like, because a character's going to die, they suddenly give them more screen time so we care more about them when they die. That is the case with Fletcher, who does more in this book than he has since Phase 1, and Mysotis Terror, who was only mentioned like 10 times in other books. I mean, it's still good because you can't make a bad School Degree Pleasant book, because like the winter stuff is really, really fantastic, and I can't praise it enough. The last chapter is brilliant writing. Honestly, I think that does still do a lot of good, but due to all the bad things, probably the weakest in the series, only rivaled by Midnight. Wait, what was I supposed to be talking about again? Oh yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean. So yeah, I wasn't going to buy all 13 books, but I didn't want to leave this whole thing entirely unaddressed. After all, these books were successful and did embark on a good run. So I decided to buy the first two. Now, I was originally only going to buy the first one, but both of these were double release. So I decided it made sense to get them both if I wanted to read both first, because, well, how they came out. So, what do I think of these books? Well, honestly, I like them. I enjoy them. They're pretty good. They're pretty nice. They're pretty different from the series. And they're good prequels. They make you learn more of the characters. Well, yeah, young Jack, you can argue he's too much like old Jack. And to an extent that's true. But I think that's not bad here, because while you can argue that Paralyze tamed him, yeah, I think it makes sense how much he's doing. So, first one, The Coming Storm, which is a terrible title, by the way. The storm is not really that much of a factor here. It's about getting a sword. Then again, might be a whole series about. Oh yeah. Some of my assumptions about these series were kind of wrong. My first assumption, it was that these were going to be my main assumptions was this was going to be mainly disconnected episodic series with barely any continuity, with Jack being the only thing that carries on. So it's just Jack being in lots of situations. But honestly, no. Not only is this book series properly serialized, like, there's a lot of stuff not found out, and I'm pretty sure they all get resolved later in the series. But they are serialized, mostly. And they do have a main cast. It's not just Jack. There's all Jack. It's not just like a young 20-year-old or something Jack. There's Arabella, who is a barmaid. There's the 13-year-old Jean, who is looking after who is who has a cat who turned into a human. Don't have much of a character yet, from what I've read. Neither does. There we go. But I love Fitzwilliam. Fitzwilliam and Jack, they play off each other really well. I love their arguments. Anyway, Coming Storm was a good introduction to the series and all these characters. Because again, this series has different characters. It's pretty fine. Jean's pretty fine. Yeah, I do like some of it isn't even from Jack's POV. Well, the Siren Song is entirely from Jack's POV. But I remember specifically the first chapter of this book is from the POV of Arabella watching the fight. Obviously, we don't see any of these characters in the series, so we will be left wondering what happened to Jack's original shipmates. Well, he obviously grew apart from them. It's not that big a deal, is it? Of course it would. But, yeah, there was a teenage stowaway named Jack Sparrow. So, yeah, and all about. This book is pretty good. Does have a few issues. So much happens at once, and it focuses more on setup for the rest of the series than his own story. So it doesn't really feel like its own story, basically. It just feels like setup. But the banter between the characters, as well as the setup itself not actually being that bad, does still make it an enjoyable read. The Siren Song! I really love the Siren Song. Genuinely. It's a great book. It has a good intriguing nature and a nice twist about Jack. A good take on the character. And all things. Like, the stuff about Fitzwilliam, that's hilarious. And, no, everything with Fitzwilliam, that's hilarious. But, like, with the companion of Jack, like, Jack's calling himself captain, even though he has no authority to call himself captain here, because we're all just teenagers going on a ship. And I like how it has the mystery of Arabella's mother, which definitely plays off in other books. I don't know! So yeah, I give a decent reviews. To Coming Storm, I give a 7 out of 10. To Siren Song, I give an 8 out of 10. And to this book is one of the weakest of the series, and wait, well, why am I still talking about this? But anyway, I like these first two books, and honestly, maybe I might one day check out the other 11. They sound pretty good. And the two books I read were pretty good. And I would like to see more of the characters, not just Jack, in their current forms. So maybe I will buy the other 11 books. I wasn't expecting to say that. I was expecting these to be like, not awful, but just little supplementary material. But no! Rob Kidd put effort into these, which you didn't really need to, because these could have just been just quick stuff just to cash in on the big money franchise you have going for you. But no, they didn't do that. But like, do your 11 books actually deserve to just getting glossed over and not talked about at all? Well, maybe not. So, I've had an idea. Why don't I judge the other 11 books not by their actual content, but their Wikipedia descriptions? Without further ado, bring on the lightning round! The pirate chase is a pirate chase, sort of, but like, Arabella kills the pirate, but she doesn't actually, or maybe she does, but like, the scared, weird one. The Sword of Cortez is a fake-out death. Yay! And also the main villain is fine, I guess. The Age of Bronze is fine. I kinda like framing plots, so this one was good. I actually really like the twist at the end that Arabella's mother was secretly a pirate captain all along. And just a coincidence for me, I have to reveal it now. Silver is about just something as stupid as the name is referencing silver gems and silver back. But the book is really about just spending time on the ship with Arabella's mother. It's nothing special. City of Gold does not actually feature a City of Gold. It's just Jack fighting someone and everyone going home at the end. Yay! The Timekeeper reveals time travel exists in the Pirates of the Caribbean universe. Yay! The banter between Jack and Fitzwilliam is good. There's not much for this one. Dance of Hours is just them chasing, trying to get stuff. And then Fitz is a twist village, shock of all shocks. Sins of a Father or an escape book is an escape book. I mean, yeah, and it features Norrington. Why didn't you kill... Poseidon's Peak just says that they're escaping an island. Jack and the Bootstrap Bill Turner from the movies. Yes. Well, New Horizons is about tridents and turrets and is oak. And the Tale of Billy Turner and Other Stories is just other stories. I don't know. You'd expect me to be done talking about the books right now, but no, there's still a little more. There was another book series about a young Jack called Pirates of the Caribbean Legends of a Brethren Court. Also by Rob Kidd. 5 books to 5 books this time. Oh, only 5. So, and there's a novel taking place in between the two. All these series take place with a young Jack Sparrow. There's also all the novelizations, as I talked about before. There's other fictional books like Ghost Ship and Escape from Davy Jones and The Secret Files of the East India Trading Company. Why is that on the Wikipedia page? What is that? And then there's more, which I won't get into. I obviously didn't read any of those books. As I discussed, I only read 2 of this entire thing. But I don't know. I just think that it's just... So, I want to focus now on the final medium we're talking about in this extended pause. And that is, of course, the video games. Now, I have briefly touched on video games for both Ice Age and Home Alone, but haven't really gone into them in much detail, to be quite honest. I think that I'm just not a gamer. I'm not a game reviewer, so... Well, I just reviewed some books. So, I don't think it's completely out of the question now. I've made the decision that if the franchise is successful in the medium, then I will play at least 2 of the games. Here, I don't really have to do that this time. I don't even have to worry about that. I will do it next time, do not worry, but I think I've already got a solution here because Patrick's brother has already played one of the games and has sent us both a review of the games of the game in question. Now, I don't want to read it out, but Factrick volunteered, I guess. And here's Factrick reading out a review of Lego Pirates of the Caribbean by Patrick's brother. Okay, so Patrick and Matrick asked me to read this out, or I volunteered, I don't know. Okay, Lego Pirates of the Caribbean is okay. It adapts the first 4 movies, although it is very hard to tell what is going on since the characters don't speak and only make mumbles. Wow, that must be weird. But it has mostly got the same plot with slight adjustments to make it less dark, since it is a kids game, and to make sure there are always 2 characters or more to play as. As someone who has never watched Pirates of the Caribbean, well, I haven't either, it's quite good. That's weird. What's weird is the unique mechanic of this Lego game. Most Lego games have a unique mechanic to set them apart. This one has Jack's compass for some reason. I don't know if that has anything to do with the plot. Well, I know from the other 2 people in here that's a big part of the movies. Not know that. There are 20 levels in the game. Each has 10 treasure chests, 1 stud bar, which are the in-game currency, and 8 items to find with Jack's compass. In addition, there are 20 red hats, which give you cheats, and there are 4 gold bricks at each level. Just seems to be telling you about the game now. 1 for completing the level, and the other 3 for getting the collectibles. The game takes about 23 hours to complete. I think it's great for a fan of Lego games and Pirates of the Caribbean. Overall, it's an 8 out of 10. Sounds like a decent game from what Patrick's brother said. I don't know how else to say it. Back to you, Patrick. I'll get back to work. Thanks to Factrick, I guess, for doing that, as I didn't want to do that myself. But anyway, I am going to list off the other video games. We obviously have the licensed ones. Curse of the Black Pearl, which got released on the Nintendo GBA by TDK Medicative. And Dead Man's Chest, released on several consoles by the PSP, the the DS and the Game Boy Advance. And then we have At World's End, released on a lot of consoles. In addition to those, I can't find. We obviously have Pirates of the Caribbean: The Legend of Jack Sparrow, Pirates of the Caribbean Online, Pirates of the Caribbean: Against Fire, yada yada. There's also other games which feature Disney games which feature Pirates of the Caribbean in minor roles, like Kingdom Hearts 2, Disney Infinity, Disney Magic Kingdoms, Kingdom Hearts 3, Disney Mirrorverse, and Disney Speedstorm. There's a lot more to go over, which I haven't mentioned yet, but I think we're just going to stop it there. I didn't tell you anything about these video games because this is the first time I've posted an actual game review. So, I think it's actually more than any of the other two than either of the other two when I talked about video games. I'm kind of talking about them more and more throughout the videos, which is why I am actually going to play at least one next time. I promise you. Okay, so we'll see what that one is. I might just pick one at random, or just ask people if they've played the games and what's the best one. I don't know. And if any of Patrick's family has played another game, I'll just ask them to do a review anyway, so I won't have to. Okay, so, and that's all the Pirates of the Caribbean media we should talk about, or at least we have to talk about, unless I've missed something, which is probably true. But anyway, after this very, very, very extended pause, I now return you to our regularly scheduled issue, where Patrick talks about a piece of Pirates of the Caribbean media which isn't as good as the two books I read. Let's see what Patrick thought of Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Men Tell No Tales. All I'm saying is, I'm glad they mostly kept Will and Elizabeth out of the 4th and 5th movies and never ruined this heartwarming and tragic ending. At least I hope so. Yeah. I guess hope wasn't enough. I promise you I scripted and recorded that part of the video before scripting and recording this part of the video. I thought Will and Elizabeth were just going to make cameos at the end. I didn't know their son was going to be a main character and it was going to be all about fixing the ending of the 3rd one. So, let's just talk about how this movie ruined a great ending. We'll start talking about the ending itself and what happened to Will. What was Will's ending in Pirates of the Caribbean 3? Well, his main arc was struggling between his devotion to Elizabeth and freeing his father, where he'd have to choose one or the other. Freeing his father would have to involve him getting cursed forever on the Dutchman guiding souls lost at sea with his heart not even contained in his body, and basically just live on forever tied to the sea, never being able to come back on land. But he had to do something to his father. The choice was eventually made for him because, well, he died, and they had Will stab the heart so the curse on the Dutchman can save him. And then he gave his heart to Elizabeth to God. Maybe you don't like this ending because, I don't know, you love happy endings. You think there should have been a way for Will to find out Elizabeth also freeing his father. Yeah, I still don't think you like this movie. Well, I love that ending. If you were this movie just basically completely avoids most of it and pretends the curse was the only issue. Never is it once mentioned in this movie that Will's heart is being guarded by Elizabeth, or how Will survive after all of that. Also, considering the opening scene, they seem to have forgot Will was the fucking captain, and he was supposed to bring stability and heroism as he is guiding lost souls at sea, while Davy Jones kind of refused to. Now, who is doing that? Who is doing the job that Will was sworn to do? They seem to have remembered that Will was under a curse which ties him to always being on the sea, but didn't remember any of the other details of that curse, and forgot everything else about it! Well, at least there's no character assassination for Will specifically. You could ask, well, how can you do that for a character who has that little screen time and dialogue? Well, what if I tell you they did that with a character who had even less screen time and zero dialogue? And that was basically why I call that character assassination. Would you believe me? Well, let's see. Elizabeth Swann was a character I don't think the people making this movie thought much about. They could have made any excuse for her not to be in this movie, but instead they didn't say a single thing, and we're all left wondering, why isn't she in the movie? I mean, functionally. I know they just couldn't get Keira Knightley to be in it, but functionally, in universe, why isn't she here? The biggest plot hole in this goddamn movie is why the hell hasn't Elizabeth been hunting Poseidon's trident down herself for the past 20 years? Why is her son doing everything? Where is she? Why has she supposedly quit piracy after basically just achieving her dream of becoming not just a pirate captain, but a fucking pirate king? Why did she let her son join the Navy? A thing that she has openly hated in the first 3 movies. What has she been doing for the past 20 years? If it isn't being the fearsome pirate she always wanted to be. Plus, this doesn't even line up with the end credits scene. The son is clearly dressed as a pirate and is singing the pirate song. Why would he be doing that if he wasn't a pirate? Or uncomfortable with piracy? This movie's backstory makes absolutely no sense! But whatever. Maybe continuity issues don't have to make this a bad movie. Well, they certainly don't help matters, but really, you can say I'm hung up on details, and I should talk about the actual content of this movie. Well, fine then. Let's talk about the things in these movies I usually like. Starting with Jack! Well, he's just there, I guess. Well, the plot happens around him. I'm genuinely serious. He doesn't have much of a reason to be here. Why do Henry and Karina need him? Can't they go to any pirate or sailor? In the other movies, Jack had a reason for going after the MacGuffins, but here it's just because he's the main character, I guess. Like because main character. Like, why are they in the movie? Because they're the main character. I hate that. But again, this is a movie which the main character does nothing. He has the exact same setup as he does in the previous movie. Down on his luck, barely successful in any crimes, and barely has a crew. So what's even the fucking point? All Jack does is make an excuse for why the villain is here. Speaking of which, why don't we talk about him? This series has a big history of good villains. I said while talking about the fourth movie that at least it had a pretty great villain in Blackbeard. So, who is this guy, Salazar? Well, he was a pirate hunter who Jack killed and became a ghost or something. Okay, kinda sounds interesting. What does he want? Well, he wants revenge on Jack, obviously. Well, how does he want revenge on Jack? Well, he wants to take over the seas. Okay, you see, this guy is barely in the movie. He barely has a presence, and he doesn't even really want this movie to get a artifact. He just wants revenge on Jack, so he's basically there to give Jack a purpose. And if he did want the Trident to break his curse, then they will make Jack's usage even worse. And he's barely in the thing and isn't fun when he is. Barbossa, Davy Jones and Blackbeard all spent an extensive amount of time with the protagonists. This guy doesn't. He just talks to Barbossa for a few minutes. I don't know. His backstory is sort of interesting. They don't do anything with that. And his defeat is just, oh, he's not cursed, so he's good now. Bye. It's incredibly boring when the other villains have such good defeats. Let's talk about some things which have slightly improved, but still not made good since the last movie. For one, Barbossa. He has a better purpose here in getting Salazar to where he needs to go. He actually has a reason to get the Trident, so actually does more than Jack. And he's a much more fun presence than he was in the last movie. I was not expecting them to kill him off, or reveal Karina was his daughter. That twist left no weight. I was a little surprised, but I didn't really care. Him and Karina only have one conversation before this, so it doesn't feel earned. His sacrifice doesn't really either. He hasn't had time to bond with Karina, and she found out just as he died. I don't think she should be in this in honor of him to be changing her name. Also, continuity wise, this makes no sense. Sorry, I'm going back to this field. How old is Karina? At least implies that she is, or is at least around the same age as Henry? Then how is this possible, as Barbossa was dead for a year and stuck as an immortal zombie for ages before? The best explanation would obviously be if she was conceived shortly after her events of the third movie. Then how the hell does Jack know? They didn't see each other at any point between the third and fourth movie. I know this is nitpicking, but it just shows they just want a boring twist instead of actually making good storytelling. You're probably wondering what I think of Karina, and to that I say, well, her and Henry are the young couple of this movie, and they've also slightly improved. Karina, I honestly like sometimes. I kind of like scientist characters in a fantasy setting. It can usually provide good humor in that there's got to be a scientific explanation. but it can also be very annoying and preachy. This is a little bit of a 2, I guess. She can be funny sometimes, but she can also be an obnoxious smartass. But she is well acted. I don't hate her, but I don't love her either. Opinion on Henry? Well, he's fine, I guess. He's just pretty bland instead of annoying. He doesn't really have much of a personality. He just has a goal to free Will from the curse. Basically, Will from movie 3, if that goal was all Will was. Yet he's not compelling. He doesn't have the melding of anyone there. No personality traits to speak of. He has nothing. Him and Karina have more chemistry than that Bible guy and mermaid, but not by that much, and that's not that big a content, let's all be honest. I've gone on for a while, but there's also other bad things, like how the opening where they're all trying to escape as execution goes on way too long, and that the movie is just loaded with filler, and just as a lot of seeds talking. This movie isn't irredeemable, but sorry, I'm not accepting this as the canon. I don't care. You might be wondering if I consider this movie worse than Home Alone 6 or The Adventures of Buck Wild. Well, it's nowhere near as bad as those. Except, I guess, if it went on for a 6th movie, then maybe that would have been worse. In fact, it would have definitely been worse. And it might get a 6th movie, but we'll talk about that in a bit. I'm just going to say it's kind of up there with Ice Age 5 and maybe Home Alone 4. Actually, I think it's worse. I think it's much better than Home Alone 4. But Anyway, in general, I think this series went on a perfect downward spiral. The first film was a true masterpiece. The second and third movies were pretty good, but extremely flawed. I think that they both have periods of awfulness, but I still enjoy them. 2 is the better one, I think, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone said different. The 4th movie is okay, and I think it's overhated. Anyone who says it's on par with the 5th movie, yeah, I don't understand you. But go on, think that. The 5th movie is a truly awful movie, which basically ruins the lore. Maybe the 5th movie will be better if it will be like a generic pirate movie. But not by that much, because there's still other issues, similar to Home Alone 4, I guess. But never mind. Let's go back to what we always come to at the end of these videos. The future of the franchise. Will this franchise continue? Well, I don't know. I think it will continue in some sense. Disney aren't going to stop making merchandise of this or putting the franchise into its games. They're not going to do that. What they are going to do, though, probably, I assume, is do something else. It has been confirmed multiple times that there is a movie in production, in development, in truly in development hell. Some people obviously make jokes of how it's never going to be finished, it's never actually going to be made. But I genuinely think it kind of will. I don't know. So they said that Orlando Bloom expressed interest in returning to the franchise, like he always was. But obviously, Keira Knightley isn't going to do it, and understandable. And Johnny Depp himself had no intention of returning to the franchise. I am going to say this. If you all expected me to go into detail of the Depp versus Head thing, you're going to be disappointed because I hate that. I never watched the trial. I wasn't going to sit through it just for a segment about it in this movie, about my view on it. Because it is one of the most divisive things. Anyway. I've heard people I trust and know say that Depp was in the wrong, or Amber was in the wrong, or they were both in the wrong, and it was equally awful for both parties. I've heard all sides of the argument, and I haven't really bothered to look into it on which side I'm on, because it is an incredibly hostile fight, and I don't want to get involved, okay? But anyway, the controversy is obviously slim in production, but it's worth noting that despite popular belief, Disney aren't not trying to get Johnny Depp back. It's actually kind of opposite. Disney are trying to get Johnny Depp back, but Depp himself is refusing because, according to him, Disney didn't stand up for him during the trial. And I guess that's understandable if he's innocent, which I'm still not going to talk about. Okay. So Orlando Bloom said he might return, but Keira Knightley said she's not, and I doubt they'll have Will in the movie without Elizabeth, unless they just explain she's doing something. But after a while, the movie was decided to be a reboot. So, and he thinks, and they still hope that Johnny Depp will appear for a cameo, but honestly, I don't think he will. They have two scripts, one with him in it and one without him in it. Honestly, I don't think that either are fully going to be made. I think the second script is going to be the one they're going with, because Johnny Depp definitely isn't going to appear in the movie. I'm surprised Disney is actually trying to get Depp back, because honestly, he is still a controversial figure, and I know he's starting to get a bit of work again, but it's never going to be the same for some people. And like every celebrity that has been through a controversy, some people will refuse to engage, and thus the movie will be much less successful. I am going to say this. If the Depp versus Her trial never happened, and Depp never had a controversy or anything like that, there will probably be 9 Pirates of the Caribbean movies by now, and this video will be way longer. Way longer, okay? And I'm glad that didn't happen. There is also some spin-off movies which have been planned, which I think are much more likely to happen. Including a female-led spin-off, like one with a female pirate, which could have just been Elizabeth, let's all be honest. But I just want to say, I hope this franchise doesn't continue a lot more than Ice Age. You can say Ice Age has got more bloated and the movies are technically worse. Like, I said it myself, Pirates of the Caribbean has 3 good movies. Ice Age only has 2. Ice Age has, disregarding the spin-off movie, Ice Age has 2 good movies, 2 okay movies, and 1 bad one. Pirates of the Caribbean has 3 good movies, 1 okay one, and 1 bad one. Why do I think it will be worse? Well, because honestly, I think Ice Age has more room to redeem itself. Ice Age didn't really end with a bad ending. It didn't really have an ending at all. I think that an ending is making a final Ice Age movie to tie up all loose ends is a good movie, is a good idea. I actually think that an idea people have proposed, I'm not sure I mentioned this in my original video, but like, an idea people have proposed since is going back to the well, where the main trio meet the baby they looked after in the first movie and brought to their parents. That's a great idea for an Ice Age sequel. I'm not even joking. I think that movie has potential. Whether with pirates, there is no way I can think of a movie idea which will work. All these reboot ideas and spin-offs, I guess maybe could work, but I don't think will ever work as well as the original trilogy. And the 5th movie, honestly, judging by how much they butchered the ending, creating continuity issues, if they take it as canon, which they will have to, unlike Buck Wild, which they could just avoid easily, it's a spin-off movie, this is actually part of the main series. So, I highly doubt they're going to ignore it. The movie is just another time. So, have I become a true fan of this franchise? Well, for the most part, yes. Much more than I did with Home Alone. Which, if you're wondering, yeah, I would actually prefer a new Pirates movie to Home Alone. That series has just been done to death. And I hope there's never a Home Alone 7. Much more than I hope there's never a Pirates of the Caribbean 6. Okay? Before you wonder. But like, I think that it's still, as much as it hurdles continue, I still think it's a decently good franchise, which stay consistent for a lot longer than a lot of franchises did. Like Home Alone only had 2 good movies. Ice Age had 2 good movies, but apart from each other. Like, one was pretty bad. Like, one was pretty good. 3 was also pretty good. The other movies were perfect, were mixed. See my video if you want more, but I think, but yeah, it's a lot to talk about, a lot to say about Pirates of the Caribbean. What I hope to see, I don't want to see more from this franchise, but I do hope a lot will. I will see another Pirates movie if another one ever comes out, which I think is genuinely possible, but I also think it's possible they could all fall apart. So yeah, I have become a fan of this franchise, and I will rewatch the first 3 movies maybe, sometimes, occasionally. I'm not ruling it out. They're good movies, decent, and maybe I'll gain a new appreciation for 4 one day. Never rewatching 5 again though. But disregarding that. So, I hope you enjoyed this near 2-hour video. I think that's how long it will be. I don't know. And yeah, if you did, please leave a like, comment below what you liked about it, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on, which I'm pretty sure only 2 people have ever done. And if you disliked it, please leave a hate comment down there and tell me why, because we'd love to keep the algorithm happy. I'll see you in my next video. I hope you enjoy your day.